Like, he was doing things that were just badass.
That was one of the coolest moments of my life.
I was really scared, but knowing that Dan had the gun, I did have the rifle, like, we would be okay.
All right, guys, welcome to today's show. And on the show with me today is Eric Clark. And Eric is with the Okayest Hunter podcast. And we connected on social media. I think that's kind of where we first met each other. And today's like the first actual like face-to-face, I guess, digital meeting. But thanks for hopping on the show with me, man.
Yeah, I think you're right. It was social. TikTok, probably. Your TikTok presence is hard to not notice. So good job for however the hell you did all that.
It's beyond me, man. I am not a social media guy at all. And my wife is a wizard with it. And she just showed me one day. She's like, hey, check this page out. And I opened it up and I'm like, I don't know what, I didn't even know she was on my page. I was like, cool. They've got like 16.
She did it for you. Like, wait, is this me?
Well, I had a page, but like I looked at it and it had 16,000 followers. And I was like, okay. And she's like, that's your page. And I was like, well, 3 days ago it had 90 followers. And she's like, I know, watch this video. And I was like, oh my gosh, she boosted it from there. And now she just tells me what to do in order to run it. And it's kind of working out. So, but it's funny because we keep having this competition. Like she's probably at almost 170,000 followers now. But like there was a point where I was like gaining on her. And then all of a sudden she'd take off. In this last round, she gained 1,000 followers in the amount of time it took me to gain like 30,000. And she's like, you're going to catch me. And now she's getting like 5,000 a day. No idea how. So, but yeah, TikTok and social media was not something I ever wanted to get into, but I love making stupid videos now. There's something about it.
You guys are good at it. I've watched a lot of them. In preparation, I'm like, man, this is freaking great. It's hard. It's not easy to do that kind of stuff. Hard's relative, but it's like I've taken my stab at a couple and they're fine, but it's tricky, dude. And it feels awkward to put yourself out there like that. You're not used to it. So it's just kind of like a weird thing it's a weird thing in our world right now.
Oh yeah. It's odd. The vulnerability of it was something that I had to get past because I'm very competitive and I don't like doing anything unless I'm going to be the best at it. And dancing is one of those things where like, I don't dance. I don't even dance to be funny because I just feel so uncomfortable and awkward. And I had to get past that. And I still hate dancing, but I'll throw.
You have to dub that country song over this part. I don't dance.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, hey, why don't you start out by, I guess, just telling listeners a little bit about yourself, kind of how you got into the media world, podcasting, the app stuff, all of that.
Yeah, man. I don't know. Before we hit the record button, we were talking about like how I got into podcasting. It started a long time ago for me. I didn't even know what a podcast was. Buddy of mine, he's pretty nerdy. His name's Shane. Him and I used to run a podcast called the Wilderness Podcast. I don't know if it's still out there or not. If it is, it's probably pretty embarrassing. But yeah, it was like half technology, half outdoor stuff. And I think our tagline that we had was like leveraging technology to get outdoors or something like that. Like finding ways to use technology to get outside. We were in that for a little while. And then in doing that, I was like, oh, I have this hunting community called Where to Hunt out of necessity of trying to find land to go bow hunt locally. I was gun hunting far away in the North Woods. And I was like, if I just want to bow hunt after work, I don't want to drive 5 hours. Can I just go somewhere around here? And at the time, Onyx wasn't around. The DNR's website was terrible. And the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel had just like put this huge article out that put the DNR on blast about something called MFL, Managed Forest Law. And landowners were scooping up land for tax breaks and then landlocking it. So the tax breaks incentive was, oh, you can get a tax break on this property if you allow recreational or hunting access on it. But then there was no access to it. So they were getting the tax incentive without holding up their end of the bargain because they'd say, hey, you can't trespass on my property. But it's like, well, I need to get to that property in the middle of your property.
Yeah.
So once that happened, the DNR really did a good job of showcasing where that land was and how to access it. So then I was like, oh my gosh, look at all this property. So I created a Facebook page called Where to Hunt because I was like, where can I go At the time, I was in web marketing, so I knew a lot about search engine optimization, and that was the most sought after search term that I could hone in on, what yielded a lot of volume. So I was like, well, if I just name the business this, I'll get a lot of business from people just trying to figure out where the hell they can go. That wasn't a terrible idea. It kind of worked. We grew a Facebook page to 10,000, like basically overnight. We had people sharing pictures of maps and screenshots and helping everyone figure out where to go. And then eventually I started to get really annoyed. I was in college full time. I was working full time. My life has never actually stopped being busy because now I have a couple of businesses and 3 kids and a day job and all this other stuff. So my time in the woods is important to me, and it's hard to find that time and come by it. So what would happen is I would go to the woods and I would go to this public property, and inevitably either someone would bump into me or I would bump into them. So we'd whistle, or you'd try to move or say, hey, I'm here or whatever. And that's fine. I think it's great that there's people out there, but that's now a bad use of my time because neither one of us are going to see a deer. We just ruined each other's hunt unknowingly. A lot of respect for those other people and so forth. But I was like, there's got to be a better way. We all have cell phones. So I thought, well, can I just make an app that shows me where other people are so we can avoid one another? Can I know there's someone there? So when I get to a parking lot, I see 6 cars. I don't go in and ruin those folks' hunts, that I can navigate away from and around them. And that has a safety component to it also. But that was the main premise, is to identify occupied and unoccupied hunting land. So I started searching on Google, how to build an app and how to get this done. And I reached out to some companies in Silicon Valley before I even knew that Silicon Valley was a thing. And they're like, oh yeah, it's $100,000. I was like, okay, well, that's not possible. I'm not going to go. I didn't even know that you could raise venture capital funding or private equity or angel investors. So I just asked around a lot more, and I had someone tell me about a guy in Chicago that could probably help me out. So I reached out to him, and he said, yeah, it'd be $10K. And I was about to pull the trigger, and through another conversation, a friend said, have you, my company outsources to freelancers through a site called Elance. Well, Elance is now called Upwork. They were purchased or acquired. But back then it was Elance. So I found Elance. I put a bid out there for what I was looking for, had a non-disclosure created out of a Google Doc. And I had 40 different bids come in to my inbox to say, hey, we'll build this app. Here's what it takes. So I reviewed all of them, and I found a company in India, but they had California roots, meaning the guy that I was going to communicate as my liaison was on my timetable, not overseas completely. So he spoke English. He was in the States. He controlled a team in India. So I worked with him, and we developed the MVP, minimum viable product, and it was a static check-in. And on the first rev of that, first revolution of that app, we got 10,000 users, which is synonymous with the Facebook page. I was like, well, holy shit, look at this. But I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any concept of I didn't even know what the word monetization meant. I didn't understand revenue models at all. I was just trying to see if this could be a thing that would stick, which is a good way to start. But you should have a better idea what the hell you're doing. It's going to just burn money. So that was $5,000 for an Apple version and an Android version. So I still had $5,000 left. So then I advertised it and pumped some money into it. And then I reinvested in 2016. I reinvested. The app launched in 2014. Then I revved it in 2016 with the reinvestment to what is the current version of it, which 2016 is actually a really long time ago in technology. The app looks old. It feels old. It's tired. It doesn't work great. It still serves a very rudimentary practical function. So we're still getting a lot of users on. I think we have over 70,000 people that have downloaded it to date.
That's
and
awesome.
We're now, I did an incubator in early 2020 before the pandemic had hit. And through that incubator, I got some funding from our state economic development center. We got some grant money. So now I have a chief technology officer that's on board with me 50-50. And we're rebuilding it completely, rebranding it completely. We understand a lot of things now that I didn't back then. And now I have connections and audience and reach in these things too. So we're hopeful that we can get this thing to market and built and back out of the App Store in a fresh new way soon, which is very relative. We've had goals for the season. That's not going to happen. It's just too much too soon. So we're trying to scale it down as much as we can so we can get it out to market. But in all of that, alongside that was the podcast. And the podcast has led me to reach on a relationship that you can't put a price on. Everyone talks about ROI. I talk about ROR because the people that I've met through podcasting has been incredible. Having done this since 2013, I have some pretty great relationships, friendships. My co-host he was a listener of the podcast. He's now one of my closest friends. We hunt together all the time. He's here in my studio every Tuesday night. And my co-owner of the business of Okayest Hunter was a listener, and now we own a business together. So like, it's very interesting, the types of things that you can do through a podcast that you never would have thought of. And so now it's the Okayest Hunter podcast, which was an offshoot of Where to Hunt. Yeah. So yeah, just lots of different things are kind of taking shape, and that has a whole different mission and is very separate from the app completely. They're two different businesses altogether.
Yeah.
That's a lot. I was going on for a while there, man. Drinking a lot of coffee here.
That's good. That's good, man. It's cool to hear other people like just pursuing or like having a goal and going after it, and hearing all the stuff that you've gone through in order to get to where you are now, to have an app, to be developing a newer model of it. And then also, I mean, podcasting for 8 years now, like that's impressive. I've been doing it a year, and I'm running into all the issues that I'm sure you've ran into multiple times throughout your journey. But yeah, I think the biggest thing for me has been consistency, trying to make sure like I keep setting these different goals, and I'll hit them for like a month, and then I just kind of drop off. I started doing 3 podcasts a week, getting those uploaded. And now for like 2.5 weeks, I haven't even put one on. And I'm like, man, I knew it was coming, because as soon as hunting season starts, everything else takes a backseat. Like, I don't go work out, I don't run, I get less work done. Once hunting season comes, that takes priority. And I gotta be able to balance that, especially with having a hunting podcast. People probably want to hear about it while hunting season's going on.
Yeah, we don't stop. So like, it's like a cold front's coming through, the wind changed direction. So like my buddy Greg, who co-hosted, he's like, I have to go hunt. I'm like, man, this is bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, but it's all good. It's like the one excuse I'll accept that are like family stuff. But I'm like, I want to go hunting, but no, I'm committed to this thing. Like it's been a journey. It's fun. There's been lots of problems. Of course, my 100th episode, I literally lost my voice from being sick. It was like a week after our second child was born, and I had a major technology problem. And so we run a live broadcast every Tuesday night. We broadcast to Facebook and YouTube, and then we have a phone number that people can call in, like a freaking radio show.
Nice.
So we take calls from people to share hunting stories, talk to our big time guests if we get a couple of those folks, and all of these different things. Because I believe in a two-way conversation, and podcasting is a one-way kind of thing. You're just talking at people, and you're putting it out there. But so we want to invite people in, and it's been really cool to do that. But it's added a number or a few layers of challenges from a technology standpoint that at any given point in time can frickin' break. So we're always pushing the envelope of what's new and modern. I work in IT. I'm not an IT person, but I'm surrounded by it. So I'm always looking at, well, what else can I do? So now we're looking at adding an ATEM mini, which is a device that will allow me to run multiple cameras for a broadcast. So we can zoom in on my face or Greg's face rather than the two of us sitting in a chair looking at each other. Mm-hmm. So, that's another layer that's going to add some complexity to this. That's probably going to break something else, but we continue to grow through these things and push the envelope, because this stuff is changing. And I believe that, we want to get on Waypoint TV and Carbon TV. We want to do something unique, and video isn't going anywhere. So the more we can do with that, the better off we'll be. So yeah, it's kind of cool, man. And then we have a strong mission. We're selling a lot of merch through Okayest Hunter. We just launched our new campaign. I got a huge stack of stickers right here, the Tag My Hunt campaign, because I got sick of seeing people get bullied or like shamed or just self-deprecating and like saying, and I self-deprecate all the time, but I mean it in a negative way, like where people would say, oh, it's not the biggest buck, but, and so I'm over it. That's our mission at Okayest Hunter, is to make it okay to hunt how you want and be proud of the deer that you shot. If it was big enough for you to shoot it, it was big enough. You don't have to say it wasn't the biggest, but yes, it was. It was literally the biggest buck because you shot it. You don't have to justify the reason that you shot whatever you shot, because it's literally your tag. So there's this elitist mentality that exists in hunting, that if you're not killing the biggest buck, you're not a good hunter. Well, that alienates anybody new to the space. And if we're to keep this tradition alive, we need new people in the space. So if someone's getting on the bus and you're like yelling at them and shaming them, they're not going to get on the bus. They're going to get right back off. And now we just lost the opportunity. So like, this is the same problem that I have with the app with public land. No, that's my spot. Well, it's not, because it's public land. It's not your spot. And if you deter people from this, then they're not going to hunt. And again, if that goes that way, then you will literally never have a spot, because it's not going to be a thing anymore. So I'm thinking a bit more globally insofar as how we do this. So I'm not trying to alienate the expert hunters or the old timers either. But I just want to justify, like, it is, if you paid your hard-earned money for a tag, no one else needs to be telling you how you should hunt with that, or like kind of directing what you do with that, or giving you their input about it. It just doesn't matter. It's non sequitur. Like, get it out of your head and just go do what you want. Because if you have a hunt with your grandpa for the last time, or the first time with your kid, or you're honoring a memory of someone that you love, or you're with someone you haven't seen in a long time because you're meeting up after you haven't seen each other in 10 years in college, or whatever it is, that hunt is special for thousands of reasons.
Yep.
It's not about the kill, it's about the hunt. So whatever it is you take for whatever is meat for your freezer, whatever you're doing. So that's kind of like a little bit of our mission, and why we're doing what we're doing. And, you know, we're using a lot of comedy to get people to pay attention and make fun of things, because there's a lot of okayest moments that happen out in the field, whether you're an expert or not. Everyone's got their shit, like that they forgot to release, or they dropped their thing out of their stand, or, you know, all kinds of goofy things like that. So we're really pulling on those strings.
Yeah, I think to your point about everybody can hunt their own way, there's a lot of people getting fed up with the bullying that happens around the hunting community. And I've been noticing it, like, people have just been like, chill out, let them do it the way they want. And then also, I see it in every area of life, where if you post what type of rifle you shoot, you will get so much hate. Like, I shoot a 6.5 Creedmoor. And there are guys that are like, are you kidding me? You're one of those guys. And I'm like, a guy that shoots a 6.5 Creedmoor? Yes, I just said that, you know? And for some reason, there's so much division in the hunting community for no reason at all. I just,
it's like the neck trying to bite the head. We're in the same thing, and we are a dying thing right now. And like, COVID saved hunting. Yep. At least it gave it, like, you know, rub the two things together. Dude, and then we got, you know, some life back into it, because people are flocking to the outdoors. So then people are bitching about that, like, well, now it's so crowded. Good. we need
that's what we want.
When you buy a tag, it goes towards conservation. That's the whole premise here, and we are the ones that contribute the most to conservation. So, you know, my goal for the new app is to kind of balance these two worlds of outdoor enthusiasts versus hunters. And it's weird that they share such a strong common bond of like accessing our nation's public lands for different reasons, but they're at odds with each other. Like, well, they're a tree hugger. Oh, they're a meat eater. It's like, Jesus, we're trying to like both enjoy our time outdoors. Everybody is just hating on everybody across all facets of life. The outdoors should be the glue for that, at least in some way, shape, or form. And for mental health, like getting outside, there's a lot of reasons for that. So there's a lot that I'm doing on the app side. There's a lot that I'm doing on just the apparel and hunting and lifestyle brand side. I don't know. It's just interesting to see where things are going, but we're having a ton of fun with it, man. Like, Okayest Hunter is just like this super fun thing. I enjoy every moment that I'm working on it. I do all the graphic design work for it. I'm also doing the podcast, running the social media and all that stuff. It's a hoot. It really is.
Yeah. I definitely enjoy the comedy side of it. I told my public speaking professor in college that I would never do a serious speech. And he kept asking me to, and I was like, it's just not going to happen, because I like to have fun and make jokes and point out flaws and things, and just get a good laugh out of it. And so on TikTok, I told my wife, I was like, I'm just going to find all of the pain points in hunting and try to make them funny and throw some stupid trending song in there with it. And that's kind of what we've done. And if I could, have you seen Rhett Daniels?
Oh yeah. He's been on my podcast in the past too. He's great. Yeah.
I'm like, that guy.
Well, it's Catching Deers. It's Bud Fisher, and his alter ego is Rhett Daniels.
Yeah,
some people think they're two different people. I'm like, no, it's the same dude, you guys. What the
Yeah, I joke about that all the time because I'm like, it's like the whole Clark Kent thing. All he does is put on glasses, and now nobody knows he's Superman anymore. But yeah, he, I think his comedy, his humor in it, it was right up my alley, and I was like, man, I'm gonna start doing it kind of that way. And I don't have like an alter ego or anything, but just to bring some humor to the overcrowdedness of public lands, or bring some humor to the fact that I wear $15 camo from a thrift store and other guys are like wearing $600 jackets. I don't know. I think the more that we can just laugh about it and not be so serious and caught up in who does what way, the better.
Yep, precisely. Yeah, let people do what they're going to do. And as long as they're doing it legally and staying within the bounds of the law, like, whatever, man. Like, who gives a shit what gun you shoot? You're shooting a gun. Like, what happened to people like, I love my gun. That guy's got a gun. Why are you going to bag on him for the brand he has? Like, man, people draw lines at weird freaking places. Like, we're already in the building, and now you're about to, like, lock doors on people. Like, we're in the same effing house, okay? Like, don't lock me out of the kitchen because you don't like that I'm cooking guacamole and you like salsa. Like, Jesus, we both like to dip chips and stuff in the kitchen. Like, come on now.
That's so true. It's odd. I do find that I don't ever have any of these disagreements or people like trying to bully me in person. It never happens. I've never had someone come up to me and be like, "Oh, hey, what gun are you shooting? Oh, wow, you're shooting that gun?" Or what type of broadhead or what stand do you have? Nobody ever does it in person. It's all on social media or online. And it's unfortunate that that's the new main way of communication for almost everybody. And the fact that the bullying's all happening on there is unfortunate, but I've just figured out, like, you just can't get in the weeds with those people, and you have to kind of point out that everybody can do it their own way. And that's part of the reason why I mean, I don't take myself very seriously as a hunter. I take hunting very serious, but like me, myself, I'm not like, I know the way to do it, because I don't. And there are plenty of people who kill way more birds.
Don't know.
I love waterfowl hunting, and I kill less birds than probably 95% of the people who call themselves duck hunters, because we just don't have great numbers here, but we still get out. The other day, I knew for a fact that we weren't going to shoot a single goose, and we still got up at 4 a.m, drove an hour, put the boat in, went out, because we love it. And it's not about like, oh, it's not even, I've heard people like, it's not even worth going out if you don't get a full bag limit. And I'm like, really? You're definitely out here for the wrong reasons. Like, I don't, most of the animals I shoot, like we did shoot 3 geese the other day, didn't even take a picture of them, because I'm like, one, people just don't really care that much that I shot 3 geese that morning. And 2, it's a waste of my time to do that when I could be cutting them up and cooking them.
Yeah, not everything needs to be glamorized. There's certain things you just kind of let lie and you just have in your own mind to look back on. I find as I'm 35, I think I'm 35. God, I don't think I'm 36 yet. I was born in 86. I can't do math. So, but the older I get, the less I care about shit. So like, it really is important to me to remember how much I cared when I was younger, and how much social media is much louder than it ever was before, especially when I was younger. This shit didn't exist this way. So it still exists in different areas. Like, you'd still watch, like, certain TV shows, and you would like be lured into all of these shiny objects. That's happening more on a smartphone now than on a TV, so to speak. But younger people, man, like, it's good for them to see this other side of things, like these okayest moments, as we refer to them, or being an okayest hunter, being okay with hunting, and just being kind. So we have a hashtag. We have a whole bunch of them that we've like coined. We called it hashtag never pass, because we believe, like, if someone says you should let it walk, I say no, never pass on making a memory that's important to you. Never pass on an opportunity to fill your freezer. Never pass an opportunity to shoot the deer that gets your piss hot. Like, do you never pass? So we obviously are being egregious about it to make a point. And then no buck shame is another one that we use. If someone sees buck shaming or deer shaming going on, if they use a hashtag no buck shame, we search those, and then we do what's called kill them with kindness. So rather than light them up and go tit for tat with them in the weeds, we just like are overly kind to them as if they need a hug, because there's a reason they're being an asshole. And honestly, then they just get, not to say they get more mad, but it's not going to like do any good trying to fight hate with hate. So I try to transcend that. And so our whole demographic and following, I think, really seems to understand what we're trying to do, and they accompany us with that. We developed the Okayest crew. It develops a dumb word. We created an application form on our website called for the Okayest crew. If you're the Okayest crew, you have to submit a paragraph as to why you think you belong to our brand. And people, we had 70 applications. We accepted, I think, 40 of them so far, because we can't just like pour it in all the time. It's a lot of work. So we got to like work on it in stride. So it's like a seasonal thing, I suppose. So we have 40 folks in that group that are like super aligned with our brand. They're kind of like acolytes, you know, they're out there pumping out our message with us, and they get it. They will kill people with kindness, so to speak, and help us end this shit. And just we just want the positive to be louder. That's the point. So we can drown out some of that negative talk by being positive. And there is a lot of positive in the world. Honestly, there really is a lot of people lifting everyone up. A spike buck being post, and most people are like, dude, congrats, you know, good for you, can't the horns, da 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 da. Like there's more of that than like the one a-hole that's like, what's wrong with you, blah blah blah.
Yep. What was it like? Was there a turning point where you just saw something and you were like, I'm done with this, this is my new mission?
Yeah, it was a kid. Someone was begging on a kid. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I have a swear button. I can be like, what is wrong with you, right? So it's just that threw me over the edge. And I was thinking about it for like a year or two before I realized like this needs to be a movement. I can't do this on my own. There's something that Eric Clark is going to do to like go end deer shaming. We need an army to do this. So like building this out and making it okay and like getting this whole thing going is starting to really spread. I think it is, at least from my seat, and the feedback that we get and the reaches that we're making. I mean, you see your reach on TikTok and what you can do. We're probably we've had the most success on Instagram as far as our reach. And I know that's where a lot of folks spend their time between these two applications. It's TikTok and Instagram by and large, and then Snapchat, which we're not doing anything with because it doesn't make as much sense. But and seeing some of those things, that's what kind of threw me over the edge, is seeing a kid get bagged on. I was like, and then an adult onset hunter, dude is 40, got his first deer because it was his first time ever hunting. So it was literally his first hunt, his first deer. And people made assumptions that because he was an older looking dude, why the hell would you shoot that thing? You're 40. It's like, he just got into this. You don't even know. Come on. Yeah. This is what I'm talking about. You can't do that. Now the guy's off the bus. Right now he's like, well, never posting a picture of a buck again. Like, what's wrong with this space where people are attacking other people?
It's unfortunate. It's kind of penetrated all different areas of our culture. And I mean, you see it in schools and fashion and hunting and churches and the type of vehicle you drive. I just had someone say that the other day. My wife was like, hey, you need to post a video of your new truck, because I've been driving around a Subaru for a long time, really enjoyed it, but the engine went out on it. And so I was like, actually, we had 2 engines go out in 2 days on vehicles. So we were down to 0 and we had to get a rental. Anyways, my buddy reached out and he's like, hey, dude, I've got a Tundra for sale. I was like, man, I love Tundras. They're awesome. He had a bunch of stuff done to it. And I was super pumped. Went out and bought it in Colorado, drove it back. And my wife was like, make a TikTok video about it. I did. And one of the first comments was like, it's a shame you didn't get a real truck. And I'm like,
pretty sure it has 4 wheels and a truck, but it looks pretty real.
I'm just like, I'm like, why? Really like, I do. At that point, I just feel bad for people. I'm like, what's going on in your life that makes you this bitter and this like upset with other people's success or happiness? But I just laugh stuff off. I probably go the wrong way about it sometimes because I'm kind of like the troller of trolls. Like if somebody's going to try to troll, exactly. I love it. I'm like looking for him. Like, who's the motherfucker that's dissing my community? You know? Yeah.
Put him on blast.
I love it. I'm like, that's so much fun. And I think it started when telemarketers were a big thing, because I love to mess with telemarketers. I don't know why. I would try to the minimum was like 45 minutes on the phone. Like I just wanted to keep them on as long as possible and mess with them. And like, oh, hold on, I got to go get my credit card, you know, and just be offline listening to them like breathing or talking to their coworkers for 5 minutes. But yeah, that turned into trolling trolls, and I probably just need to stay positive about it because sometimes I really get nasty. But
we all need our outlets, man. You know,
I know.
Being an optimist is exhausting sometimes, to be quite honest, because it'll actually piss my wife off. She's like, can you like be like, can you not be so optimistic about everything? Can you just like take a second to just hear what I'm saying and not try to like make me feel like I'm being bad for not being positive? I'm like, I'm sorry. That's how I think about the world. Yep. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty about like whatever your disposition is, but yeah, it's kind of funny.
Yeah. I would joke with my wife every now and then, like there's half glass full and half glass empty people, or glass half full and glass half empty. And I was like, I'm a glass all the way full kind of person. And she's like, well, that's half water. I'm like, half air, half water. Absolutely. I'm like, it's always full of something. And that's just kind of how I live my life. But I think it kind of scares her when I do have a bad day and I'm actually negative. It happens maybe once a month where I'm just like, man, this sucks right now. Like, why does life suck right now? And she's like, what's going on? You're always the positive one. And so I think it kind of freaks her out a little bit. But
yeah, it happens to me too. I think it's honestly being plugged in too damn much. And so hunting season is honestly like really good because I get to just decompress, get my batteries back to neutral. The way that I grew up, things weren't great. Not to say there's no pity party, like everyone has their shit. But I found solitude in the woods. I would go out and build forts and like little bonfires. I had the fire department called me a bunch of times, but whatever. Like to me, that's still the reason why I'm out there, is to just be out there. And seeing a deer is bonus, getting one is double bonus. Yeah. I just expect I'm not going to see or shoot anything every hunt I go, and I'm just looking to connect with nature and chill out and have some silence surround me and watch the woods come to life and appreciate things that are in my life then, because I've finally had a moment to slow down. So I read a book called Stillness is the Key by Ryan Holiday. And that book sent me on a journey over the last 9 months of reading Stoic philosophy and Marcus Aurelius and these people that, think differently about things and zoom out and don't get so like caught into everything. And it's been great. So this hunting season has been a lot of reflection so far. I've only been out like 3 or 4 times. So it's kind of cool, man. It's very important to me to get time outdoors. And I think it has the ability to help a lot of people in ways that they didn't even realize.
Absolutely. I tell people there's a couple different ways to break down walls. In my mind, there's 3 major ones, and it's music, athletics, and the outdoors. And you can take someone who maybe just so depressed or so hurt or something, and if you can find one of those 3 things that they enjoy, like they may not talk to anybody, but if you connect with them over those, you can make a significant impact on their life. And if you can help them just kind of look inside themselves through one of those activities, it helps out as well. I worked at a summer camp for kids, and it was like a sports camp. They did a lot of traditional sports. They did a couple outdoor activities, like fishing, archery, BB gun shooting, and stuff like that. But it was so crazy to see some of these kids when they came in. You could just tell they were broken. They were quiet. They wouldn't say much. Like, they would never volunteer for anything. They wouldn't participate in conversations. And at the end of the week, there was just one thing that they couldn't get over. Like, this was the greatest thing I've ever done. And it was cool because a lot of times it was canoeing, and I was like the canoe instructor. And so it was just like, do you remember when we went up the creek? And like, they wouldn't shut up about it by the end of the week. And I just love to help people find that passion, especially when it's in the outdoors, because that's what it was for me.
Yep. Yeah. I've gotten, I think 4 or 5 people into hunting as adults. And I think only one of them stopped. And that's pretty good odds, and now they look forward to it every year. It's like this big deal thing, and they're really jacked about it, and they found their own solitude. I mean, I think getting outdoors is great. If you're on a hike, you're still moving through the world. I think hunting is one of those few times where you literally stop and you have to sit, especially if it's like whitetail, because 9 times out of 10 they're going to see you before you see them. So if you're just like there sitting still for hours on end, like waiting to ambush something, you're forced to be in a different position, like quite literally still. So I think that's just like a really critical thing. But you're right about the kids in the canoe and stuff like that. That's just, no one's ever going to remember, like, if you played games, if you play Call of Duty or Roblox or whatever the hell it is these days for, Fortnite for 15 hours straight, there's nothing indelible about that. You're still staring at a screen. If you go in that canoe once and you tip over, you're never going to forget that. And it becomes this really great memory. So like those activities are so much more indelible than the alternative. I'm not bashing video games. I'm just saying they're not like that memorable. You're never going to be like, oh, remember that headshot I got? And that no one cares. It's not the same, you know. And look at what you have behind you. You have antlers on your wall. Like you can trace back those headshots or like lung shots or heart shots to like, that is the embodiment of the memory.
Yeah.
You know, it lives on that way and the stories are told around those things. So like, it's very different. You can't like, what are you going to do? Frame your screenshot on your wall of your video game? That maybe someone does that. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love it. In, you know, some people kind of frown upon any type of taxidermy and stuff, but I love the memories. Like I love looking at something and remembering exactly how that happened without having to pull out my phone. Like I very rarely pull out my phone and like thumb through pictures. Although I take a ton of them, there's something about seeing like the actual antlers, the actual fur. Like I've got a beaver pelt from Colorado, and it was one of the funnest hunts that I had ever been on. And so to have something, a physical object to remind you of it after the meat's gone, because like I eat all of this stuff. That's primarily what we eat, and I love it. Some people don't, and that's fine. But once all that meat's gone, you know, I like to still have something physical that I can remember the animal, the experience, the adventure, the conversations and relationships with. And yeah, antlers are just kind of that thing for me. If they had a cool hoof, I'd keep the hoof. You know what I mean? Like,
yes. Yeah.
But I'm hoping one day, I told my wife that I want to start saving all of my animal hides when I go hunting, and put them on the wall and use them as sound dampener in a podcast studio eventually when I'm not doing it in my bedroom. I'm like, instead of buying foam, I would love to just have every inch of the walls covered.
My God, that reminds me of the Get Under the Greek scene where they're like rubbing the furry wall all hopped up on Jeffries. It's like one of the funniest movie scenes I've ever seen. When I saw it for the first time, I was like, what is even happening right now?
Yeah, that's awesome. What does your year look like? I mean, I know you're big into bow hunting. Are there other outdoor passions that you have, whether it's, you know, canoeing, hiking, camping, or another type of hunting or fishing?
Yeah, man, I fish. We also have Okayest Fisher, oddly enough. So we have some really fun designs for that too. But I'm not as serious about those things. Like I love to fish because it is relaxing. It's great. It's a nice solitude kind of thing. Being on the water, it's pretty addicting. I do go on hikes with my kids quite often. We do have a canoe. So my son he doesn't understand that it can tip or that water will drown him or that he can't jump out of it. So like he's not a candidate yet, but I do want him and my daughter's gone on the canoe with me, but and then elk hunting is something I want to get into. We were going to go this year, but my third child that just arrived a month ago kind of put a botch on that. We were planning on that last year, and then we found out we were expecting in mid to early January. We're like, well, I guess no elk hunt this year, so that's kicked the can to 2022. Yeah, so mostly just bow hunting. Gun hunting is very big in Wisconsin, as I'm sure you're aware, and not much else. I try to do morel mushroom hunting. I've never found one. I don't know what my problem is. I've never found a shed. I love to go shed hunting. Never find any. I'm really just the okayest at all of this crap, man. I just don't know what my deal is. I love all of it, though, so much. So, yeah, I think as far as what's on the agenda for the year, outdoors-wise, as much as I can.
Yeah. Man, I think you and I are cut from the same cloth, because same here. We have so many morels here. I know people that find them in their driveways, like growing out of the gravel in their driveway. I can't find one. I look all the time. Same with sheds.
Like, oh, look for the dead elm trees. I'm like, I found them, but there's no mushrooms. I'm like, What is going on? And what I did find, we went morel mushrooming with our family this year in spring, is we had 30 ticks on our dog and probably like another 60 on all of us, including our kids. I was like, well, that was not cool.
Yeah. Man, I was on a duck hunting trip one time, and it was like late in the year, probably December, maybe early January. And it was a warm day, and so the river was still flowing, and I was like, man, let's just walk the river and see if we can jump any wood ducks. We get back to the truck, and I look down at my hands, and my hands are just brown. Like, it looks like I just sprinkled dirt all over my hands. And I was like, what in
leeches?
the world? And so I like wipe my hands off on my pants and I look down and it looks like even more dirt. Apparently there were seed ticks and I didn't know about seed ticks at all. Literally thousands of ticks covering my hands and my pants and everything I had on. And I like stripped down. I rode the whole way. What was that?
Rode home naked and burnt it all somewhere.
Oh yeah. I stripped everything down, threw it all in the truck bed, drove home in my boxers, no socks even. And it freaked me out so bad. Yeah. Like I hate ticks, man. I grew up dealing with ticks all my life. I've had to pull them off all my dogs when they look like little blueberries, and I just don't like them. And to be covered in thousands of them and to just not even know that they're all gone, that drove me crazy.
Yeah, you wonder for weeks because, dude, you can't really like kill a tick. They are very hard to kill.
Mm-hmm.
They'll survive like for weeks without a meal, and they can go to like the wash. I'm like, what the fuck? Who designed these terrible freaking creatures? Everybody thought I hated
they're
them.
robot insects.
They're right up there. So yeah, they're terrible, man.
Yeah, I mean, I remember growing up, if we found them on ourselves, my mom's like, the only way to kill them is to burn them. Like they belong in hell. That is why you can kill them with fire. And so we would just like light a match or a lighter and burn them until they pop. And to this day, that's the only way I deal with them. I never flip them off. No, I always burn them because that's what they deserve.
Yeah, we are cut from the same cloth when it comes to that for sure.
What are you primarily hunting public land up there, or do you have some private land that you hunt?
Public land. I do have public access to a private property through a conservancy draw that I did. I get drawn for that every so often. If I get picked, you pay for it, and then if you get picked, you get access to it. But other than that, no, I don't own any land yet. There's nothing against private land at all. But I do enjoy bouncing around and burning up properties I don't have to care about at all. It's great. You can cover a lot of ground, and it's like, well, if I had my own property, I'd probably just not hunt it until like the rut or something where I wouldn't even want to like touch it. So I'd be hunting public anyways. It wouldn't really even make that big of a difference. You know, I think I've really grown to love it. I was hunting public land in the Nicolet, the Shawinigan Nicolet National Forest when I was a young kid with my dad. And that's just all I've ever known. It wasn't even like public land hunter. It was like, well, my dad's like, I don't have private land, so we're just going to go wherever we can. And that was it.
I love that the script has flipped with public land hunting, because it used to be like, oh, you don't have private, you're a public land hunter. And now it's like, I'm primarily a public land hunter. And it's like, oh, wow, you're like the baddest of the bad. And
it's like, what? This is just how I've always lived my life. I've literally only ever hunted public land. Yeah. So I've gotten my fair share of like a sit on a private property here and there, but I've never killed anything in private. So I don't know. I've killed all my deer in public land.
Yeah. We've almost always hunted private land for whitetail, because I grew up just rifle hunting. Like I didn't know anything about bow hunting until I think I got my first bow at like 16. And then I started shooting religiously. I mean, I was shooting every day, hundreds of arrows every day. But yeah, we grew up hunting private land, and public land scared the crap out of us with how many different rifle hunters there were. My parents just didn't trust other people to be ethical or to make wise choices when shooting at a deer. And so they're like, we've got this other land, we're going to do that. But every other type of hunting has always been public, and I've loved both. I think there's something about the woods that I hunt in Wisconsin. I go back every year. I hardly ever shoot what most people would consider big deer, but there's something about like that hillside that I sit on in the thick woods, and like, you just know where the deer travel. I love it. I like the connection and the memories that you can make with one piece of land when it comes to private. I think that's the cool part. The public side of it, I like the fact that you can just go, especially out west with elk hunting. Mm-hmm. Like when I sit in a deer stand, I always wonder like, what kind of animal is right on the other side of that hill? Well, if it's not my property, I can't go find out. With hunting out west, you can. It's like, I don't know, let's go. Public land goes for like 30 miles in that direction, so we can just keep going if you want. And there's something cool about that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's how my dad and I hunted the Nicolet. It wasn't even like we were badasses or hardcore, but we get really, really deep into properties, mainly because well, let's just see what's over the next ridge. And that was it. Like we just kept doing that over and over again. I was like, Jesus Christ, I'm done. No more ridges. Like we got to go back. I don't even know where we are. We've gone too far. But like curiosity was the driver for us. And some people are like, whoa, we're so hardcore. I'm like, no, we're not hardcore. We just are too dumb to like stop. Like, that was it. So I imagine I'd have a problem out west for the same reason. The physicality of it, I would have to, as a dad of 3 now, I've really lost a lot of the physical part of my life, which is, making an excuse to some degree, but it's freaking hard, man, to find time for that kind of stuff. I'd have to like, oh, hey, honey, I'm leaving again to go to the gym. Will you sit here and breastfeed our baby and deal with the other 2 fighting? And like, it's just to find that time right now is really difficult. We're not sleeping. So like, oh, well, I could get up. Everyone's like, get up early. I'm like, bitch, I am up. I haven't slept yet. I need to sleep. Like I've been up since 2:30 in the morning. So like, I just lay down at 5 o'clock. It ain't going to happen. I can't just get up at 6. I need that sleep. So until we get past this like season or phase of life, I'm just trying to like not eat like a total dump truck or garbage truck so I can like maintain some sense of physique here. So when I want to turn it back on and go lift weights, I can like get back at it and then go out west and, go kill something. I would kill anything. I would kill the tiniest bull or like the biggest cow. I don't care. I just want some elk meat in my freezer and I want to have that experience. So yeah, that's something I'm really looking forward to in the future here.
It was fun learning about elk hunting and Western big game hunting with the group that I did. I kind of got adopted into this hunting party and they brought me out, and it was crazy to see the amount of differences in preference. Like what would one guy shoot versus the other guy. There's some guys that, like the guy who invited me to the group, he was like, dude, shoot anything. Like whatever you see that makes you happy, like shoot it and get one under your belt. And then you can decide if it's for you. But there's something about like being successful once that gives you the motivation every year to know that you can do it. He's like, whereas if you have an opportunity, but you pass on it because it's not the right one, he's like, maybe next year you're going to start doubting yourself more. And then it's going to become like a routine where you just don't believe that it's going to happen. And so I went out with him, and sure enough, the first elk I ever shot came through. He's like, hey, there's an elk coming through. If you want it, shoot it. And I was like, so excited. And
I'd be like, yes, if it's an elk and it's going away, I'm going to shoot it. Like there'd be no.
It was frustrating because all I had was a bull tag. And I had, gosh, I don't know, 40 cows walk through this gap. And I'm just set up, and we're like a couple miles back in there, and I'm like set up on the tripod, and I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. And it's just like a gap in the cedars, probably like 2 feet wide. And these cows just keep coming one after the next. And I'm like, man, I would shoot any one of these, but I don't have the tag. Like I know in Missouri, you can get an any deer tag, and same thing in Wisconsin. There's like, you can get like the only antlerless or the any deer. And I was like, man, I wish that I had an any deer tag because I would shoot any one of these. And then all of a sudden he's like, the next one coming through is a bull. And I was like, oh, yes, like I'm so pumped. I don't care what it looks like. I'm going to shoot as soon as I get a clear shot. And I did. And it was one of the funnest things I've ever done. And now I'm hooked. But similar to you, I think this year my elk hunting trip is going to be canceled. I'm supposed to leave in like 2.5 weeks for it, but my wife is actually going up to New York to get pregnant by a doctor for a surrogacy journey. And so we'll be up there.
You gotta do that. Takes precedence for sure.
Oh, absolutely. I told her like last night, she was like, I feel so bad. Like I want to find a way for you to go. And I'm like, it's not a question. Like if you are going to New York, I am going to New York. Like we're in this together, although I'm not carrying any babies, that's for sure. Like I'll be there with you every step of the way.
You gotta deal with the hormone. That's carrying a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, you know what? I actually have to give up sex for like a total of 10 weeks because of this. So I am fully invested in this.
That's true. There's that too. Yeah. Oh man.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Cool, man. Congrats, you guys.
Yeah, it should be fun. But I'm like, to me, it doesn't matter. I like getting out at any point in the year. Some people are like diehard about cellular trail cameras to not blow up their spot. I mean, I hunt a private spot where I have I have full control if that gets too much pressure or not. And I still go out twice a week to check trail cameras because I just love being out there. And there's something about walking the same ground and seeing the animals. And I don't know. I think I would fit in great with the Okayest Hunter crew because I am not great at any of it. I do all the wrong stuff according to most people.
Yeah, you get familiar.
You there?
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
I was like, wow, I really bored him. I just looked at like your image on the screen and you're like, for 15 seconds.
Frozen.
Yeah. What do you do as far as like bow hunting? What is your strategy? Do you have a set strategy? Do you just adapt each time? How are you hunting? Like in a climber, saddle, ground blind, just sitting on the ground?
When I started, I was primarily a hang-on tree stand. It was loud and clunky, and every time it took me like an hour to set up and tear it down. Probably why I never saw any deer. And then after that being so difficult, I just started hunting from the ground. So the first deer I ever killed my bow was from the ground at like 10 yards or something. It was a little doe fawn. The second deer I killed with my bow was the buck I got last year, which was my first buck with a bow on public. And he's actually going to be hanging over my shoulder in the next week because the taxidermist just texted me that he's ready to pick up next week. But that was out of a hang-on tree stand because I got back into that last year. And then this year I'm trying out a saddle and I'm doing some really unique still hunting techniques that I've been learning. So, and I'm normally one to like really overshare things. This one I'm kind of not just because it's something that someone else has had like a lot of success doing. And they don't have social. They don't want to be known. They don't want anyone to like come in contact with them that way. So it's a relative of mine. And for that reason, I'm not like really talking about that. There's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing illegal or anything like that at all. It's just so different than anything else I've ever seen or done. I've literally heard no one else hunting this way, not even the whitetail adrenaline guys or anybody. But he's got more big deer than most of the known hunters that are on social. And he just hasn't any ego. He doesn't care. And he's super modest about it. So I'm doing that and saddle hunting. So I got a Lone Wolf custom gear platform. I have a Latitude Method 2 two-piece adjustable saddle. My bow is old. It's a Bear Empire single cam. It's quiet. It's smooth. I like it. And then I'm shooting Vector Custom Shop arrows, which is a guy in Wisconsin that I met through an incubator who's got a startup where he's creating thick-walled micro diameter arrows. So they're the only arrows of their kind and they're custom built to order. So it's like, if you don't have time to go to the archery shop, you just go to his website and he's got an algorithm. So you type in your draw length, weight, bow, etc. And then they outfit the arrow for you with an ethics insert outsert system on the front. So it's kind of adhering to something called front of center. So a heavier FOC. So I have their setup and then I'm using Iron Will broadheads. It's the single bevel S100. I got really deep into the Ranch Fairy and the Ashby Foundation and all that stuff. Obviously, all of this is through podcasting. Got every single thing I'm doing is because of the podcast. So yeah, my setup's like really heavy. It's pretty lethal. It's very sharp. I think Iron Will Broadhead's like slogan is sharp as science allows. The saddle is super comfortable. I've hunted out of the saddle before to try it and it wasn't comfortable. It was a one-piece system. I didn't like it. I felt like I had to keep pulling my it down to cover my ass cheeks and it wouldn't, like it was fixed right there. So this one with the two-piece, I can have like a lumbar and I can move this on my legs or my butt or however I want. And so, yeah, the Lone Wolf custom gear sticks and stand or platform plus the Method 2 saddle and all that stuff. So yeah, camouflage, I don't give a shit. I don't know. I got it from Walmart like 10 years ago. It's all the same. In fact, I started using a flannel last year because I just felt more comfortable. And then I just, this is my lucky hat. My dog, my new puppy, we got a new boxer puppy, chewed up my hat that I got my deer in last year, my lucky one. So I had to go get another it's my hat, but I buy it. I treat myself as my own customer.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, like literally go to the website and do the whole thing like anybody else would, just to experience how our process is, make sure everything's working great. And then, that way it's like funding ourselves. If I'll just, rather than giving myself my free stuff, it's kind of stupid, I think.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's the setup, man. I'm like, Pretty nut stuff. My boots, I wear a boot called Gumleaf USA. They're rubber boots, but they're real rubber, not synthetic. So almost all of the boot manufacturers that make rubber boots, they're almost all made out of the same factory overseas, and they all use like synthetic material like PVC. So they like crack and are brittle. These are handmade in like Europe, and by one, like a person will make your boots, and the rubber is so much stronger, more durable. These boots have lasted me, I think I'm on year 3 or 4 with them. Not one single puncture, crack, nothing. So like, again, because of podcasting, I got into this stuff. So I'm like pretty jacked about my setup, man. I'm like, for the Okayest Hunter, I got a pretty solid setup. You know, years past, it wouldn't have mattered nearly as much, but it's cool. It's good stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. Sorry, I had no idea. My phone, I must have only done it for an hour on Do Not Disturb. Yeah, I've absolutely loved all the connections through TikTok and podcasting that I've made. Like that has been probably my favorite thing about it, is all the different people, small businesses, the no-name guys that are hunting and fishing. Like you and one other guy are probably the most famous people I've had on the podcast as far as like the outdoor world. Well,
famous.
Like when I first started, I was like, man, I'm going to have all of these people. Like I'm going to reach out to all the biggest name guys. And then my wife did a TikTok about just having random guests on, and almost all of my guests that aren't friends or family have just been random people. And it's been so much fun to hear the different types of hunting and fishing and strategies and things that I've never even thought about or experienced. Like there's so many different possibilities when it comes to the outdoors and things that we can pursue in ways that we can do it.
From everybody. The reason we do the call in primarily is I can have an expert hunter on. I can have a, Jared Scheffler, a Cody DeQuisto, Dan Invalta, whoever, these whitetail phenoms. And that's good. You'll learn a bit from those guys, but they have their very specific, unique way. And that way works for them. It might not work for you. But when I talk to the Joe Blow, Johnny Lunchbox, average guy from different parts of the country, the collective knowledge of all hunters far outweighs that of a single hunter.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone has something they can teach someone, whether you are having success or not. There's something that might be an aha moment where the light goes on. They're like, oh man, I never thought of that. I should try that out, because everything has to work for you. Just like in business, like just because one business is successful doing something a certain way, like doesn't mean that that's going to work for you in your way. Like you might have your own approach. So it's not much different. I compare hunting to business a lot because I'm like obsessed with business. So business and deer and family are like my, I probably don't talk about anything else, actually.
That's awesome.
That's all you get with me. Like, and if it's anything else, I'm like, I don't want to talk to you. I have nothing to talk about.
Well, when you started talking about when you
Like,
started talking about the business and getting into it, I was just like, holy cow, this guy is a wizard when it comes to business. I am the least business-minded person ever. I can't explain how finances work. I can't explain how any of it works. I'm just like, I like hunting, and that's I'm like, so basically me and you are the same, except just take that.
I like
business.
hunting.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, your wife knows what she's doing. I'm like, man, I wish I could give her my account and she could be like, hey, check it out tomorrow. You have 16,000 followers. That'd be dope. So like if she's for hire, you let me know.
I know, right?
TikTok is not a world I understand at all. She'd probably make a pretty dime doing that stuff too. I've seen you guys doing some like ad for Chime. I was like, is that him? I was like, it freaking is. What the hell? Look at that.
I wish I had that kind of following on mine. They reached out years ago. And well, they didn't even reach out. It was just like a random thing my wife saw. And it was like, hey, send us a video of your favorite feature on the card and you could win $100 gift card.
Now they're running into that.
We're going to pick it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And so my wife was dropping me off at the airport. I think I was heading out to Colorado to mountain goat hunt or something. And she's like, my favorite feature on the card is they send me updates every morning and evening of what my account balance is. And she hands it to me. And I was like, my favorite feature on the card is the rounded corners because it doesn't get caught when I slide it in my wallet. And I was just being an idiot. Right. And they were like, dude, we love it. And so they took it and I was like, sweet. So anyways, that turned into kind of a cool partnership. But the first video that they posted on Instagram, my my wife's like, look what just popped up on my phone. And I looked at it, and now it's a daily thing. Like, I come across myself and my wife on social media a dozen times a day. And it's kind of weird, but she showed me the one video on Instagram, and it had like 49 million views. And I was like,
God,
this is
crazy.
amazing. Like, why didn't I put in the contract, like, you have to put my handle underneath my name or underneath as a caption? Because yeah, it was kind of cool. But they're super awesome people over there, and we actually do really like their product. Like, we started using their product before we ever did any type of advertising for them.
That's dope. That's cool. So it's authentic. Yeah, the most we've ever had on one that I'm aware of, at least, we had one that reached like 110,000 people on Instagram Reel, and we just take movie clips and make them into like memes or whatever, GIFs. I don't know what you call them, because they're like they have audio, right? So we have, I don't know, probably hopefully more than 100 of these things now on our reels. So we can just scroll through that for days, and I see something like, oh yeah, that's like when this happens during hunting. So I'll be no shit on the toilet, and I'll be watching YouTube, and I'll make one of those in a couple of minutes. And
that's awesome.
That'll be like late at night, and I'll drop the phone on my forehead 10 times laying in bed, but I'll make them there or whatever. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, YouTube, I'm making content. It's taking 2 seconds, Yep. She's like, what are you freaking watching? I did like a James Bond one the other day where like he was getting tortured in the chair. And I was like, oh man, this is like how people feel about protecting their hunting spots.
I saw that one.
Like, this is kind of dumb shit that happens every day with me with this stuff.
Yeah. I like incorporating TV shows and movies, and even like TikTok with songs. Like, you can take so many songs that they don't have anything to do with hunting or fishing or the outdoors. And if you just splice them right, you can make it sound like that is 100% what the song's about. Yep. And that's kind of where we found our niche with TikTok, the comedy side of it, and then just turning everything into hunting stuff. But yeah, it's done well. I mean, I attribute like all of my success on social media or on the podcast side of things. It's all come from TikTok. It's crazy. And the amount of positivity on TikTok, I don't know if you've noticed that. I think the first video that kind of took off had like 3,000 messages on it or comments on it. And I read every single one of them. And I was just blown away that many people like wanted to support the podcast or wanted to listen in. And so I was like, I'm going to read every comment. And out of the more than 3,000 comments, there were 2 negative comments on there. And I was like, I love this place. This is way better than Facebook and Instagram. I'm like, all I have to do is post a black shirt, like a picture of me in a black shirt on Facebook. And people are like, yeah, black shirts are terrible. You should never wear a black shirt. It's ridiculous. But yeah, I've really enjoyed making content. I don't know why. There's something about it. And I don't even
create, man. Just like it feels good to build. Like, you can point at that and say, I did that. And there's something about that kind of stuff. Like the room I'm in, we built this room, and I'm like, man, I freaking helped build this. Like, we laid the foundation and put up the studs and did the electric and like all the stuff. So it's like, it feels different when you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. I also noticed that you appreciate it a lot more than other people. Like, when you build something, like I'll build something. I'm like, really look at this. This is so awesome. I made
a end table and it's like falling over, but isn't it so great? For like, yeah, dude, it's a freaking table. Like, whatever. I'm like, but you're
exactly
stained it and everything.
Yeah. I've noticed that also with videos. I'm like, guys, you got to check this video out that I made the other day. And they're like, is this one of those dumb TikTok videos? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, we don't care about that. I'm like, but it's pretty funny. And they just kind of like walk away. All right, whatever. I realize that I'm my own biggest fan.
You have to be. We laugh at our own jokes the hardest. I will be like creating content and laughing my ass off. And then I'll put it on like, no one thinks it's funny. I'm like, well, I don't care. I thought it was funny. So like, I'm serving my own purpose here. This is all this is about. It's just making myself laugh.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Well, hey, we're over the hour mark, and I'm sure you're busy. You just, like you said, you haven't slept in a while. So I want to respect your time, but I do want to give people an opportunity to hear like where they can find your stuff. I'll put the link in the bio as well, but if you want to share that, where they can find the app, the podcast, all your social media accounts, that type of thing.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. The app in its current form which don't be hard on me, too hard on me, but it's where2huntapp.com. And that could be with the number 2 or the word 2, TO. The rebrand and trademark we're waiting on is Outland, OUTLND.io. So Outland, and the app will be Outland Hunt for the first derivation of it. So the website's very anemic right now, very intentionally. So there's not much there because there's not much there. More to come. And obviously, Okayest Hunter, you can check out okayesthunter.com. And then we have a separate website also that acts as like more of a Patreon called okayesthunterpodcast.com. So if you want to buy us a beer to say, hey, thanks for doing a podcast and making me laugh, we'll gladly take your $5 every month to go buy a case of beer for our Tuesday recordings. And we'll be sure to say thank you.
That's so awesome. That's like adding to the creativity and the entertainment value. Like if you want it to be a funnier podcast, just up it to $10 or $15.
Yeah, everyone's like, oh, you should give us free tea. I'm like, no, I can't commit to all that stuff. I try to give away with your Patreon for a few months, and it got really hard. And we had, I think, 20 people at like $5 or $10 a month. So everyone's like, oh, you're making a lot of money. But we were taking literally every dollar and buying stuff to then give back to those people.
Mm-hmm.
I was partnering with big brands to give stuff away, and it broke down quick where I couldn't keep up. So I'm like, you know what? If you want to give us $5, expect nothing in return other than like, that you contribute and you're supporting us. That's it. So maybe we'll send you a sticker or something, but had to take all that out of it. Anyway, yeah. I know we're trying to wrap things up and bring the plane in for landing. So
no, man, I definitely appreciate all that you're doing for the outdoor community, trying to just get people to understand that it's not about the size of the buck, the camo you wear, but get out there and do what makes you happy and be okay with that, be at peace with that. So I appreciate it. And I love watching your stuff. I love following along, and I'm going to continue to do so. But one of these times when I come up to Wisconsin, we'll have to connect and go out and grab a drink or something.
Absolutely, man. Hit me up. I've made a lot of friends through this stuff. So if you're in Wisconsin, I would be remiss if you didn't. As long as you are passing through, it might be worth a beer in the driveway on the tailgate or something, or we'll get the fire going if the beers are flowing better or whatever. And yeah, obviously, if you want to plan a hunt sometime, open to that too, man.
Sweet, man. Well, thanks again, and you take care. Go get some rest, or do one of the other 1,000 things that you're
thank you
dialed into right now.
Sounds good.
All right. See ya.